managing editor of the quarterly journal Sacred Music, and he also writes daily for the New Liturgical Movement blog.
Yeah!
Hey! And he also has a column in The Wanderer, and he does tons of other things. He's really a true Renaissance man. So let me introduce Jeffrey Tucker.
I always had the sense that being a blogger would be more popular than the editor of Sacred Music. I got my confirmation today. Sacred Music is an interesting publication. Has anybody here actually seen this thing? We got a few people. Okay, wow, wonderful. Okay, so it began, I guess, we're on issue number 100, volume number 137, I believe, which is astonishing if you think about it. 137 volumes, uninterrupted. And when Bill Mark took over the editorship, well, actually he came to me and said, I'd like to be the editor of Sacred Music, and I thought, okay, this is a sure way to discredit a wonderful history, a wonderful journal. That's not going to happen. How about you be the editor and I'll be the managing editor? He said, okay, that's fine. And I thought for once in my life, Susan, have I told you the story? So I thought for once in my life, I would have a kind of job where I would have no limits on spending. You know, no limits on anything really. I could buy all the images I wanted, pay authors, and everything's taken care of. And the reason I believe this is that nobody had talked to me about the money involved in the magazine. And I should have known, right? If they're not talking about the money, it actually turns out to be a bad sign. So we finished the first issue under my guidance, I guess you could say. And the treasurer called up and said, well, it's a wonderful issue. Unfortunately, we've spent our entire budget. We have no money at all. This is true. So that was panic, because I thought, okay, after 100, I guess at that point it was 134 issues, I thought, this is going to die under my watch for sure, unless something changes. But it's interesting how these things work. We confront barriers and difficulties in our lives, in all aspects of our lives, and we think, this isn't the way it's supposed to go. I thought this was going to be an easy street for me. I thought this was the plan, was I was going to walk this way, and now I've got a barrier in front of me. It turns out that there's a reason for that barrier, and the reason mostly has to do with, I think two things. Oh my goodness, it's Don Roy. Hi, Don. Wonderful to have you here. There are two reasons for these barriers. One is to improve ourselves, so that we become better people, which we do through adversity. That's a difficult thing to even admit because nobody wants adversity. I don't even like to say that out loud. I'm afraid God will hear me say it and give some ideas, Nobody wants adversity. We all want things to happen our way. But yet we're improved through adversity. The second reason for the adversity is that lots of times we have a job to do for the world. And the only way we can accomplish this job is by overcoming this barrier. And if we can muster the personal strength to get through the barrier, then wonderful things happen and the world improves. And I would say that that's a short history of actually what's happened to Sacred Music magazine. We confronted something terrible, namely very low membership in the CMAA, Church Music Association of America, very low subscribers, a great deal of lack of interest really. This is just a few years ago. And so just to stay alive and to prevent personal humiliation, I solicited help in drumming up a membership campaign. And it worked. And suddenly membership was up 10 times over what it was 5 years ago. And we've inspired all sorts of new writing. And the journal itself has kind of spearheaded this remarkable movement that's now going on. I mean, the talk I'm going to give you tonight, I could not have given 5 years ago. Probably not this talk, but the next talk. I wouldn't be able to give that 5 years ago. There wasn't that much to be optimistic about. Do you realize how much changed in the last 5 years? In 5 years. It's extraordinary. It's astonishing to think how different the world is in such a short period of time. And it's come about through this unleashing of this energy of people who are interested in this cause. Now, I tell the story of adversity mainly because if I were going to name one group that faces this in every aspect of your vocations, it's church music musicians. I mean, my inbox is filled every day with very, very sad stories of people in parishes who are struggling with one another problem in their parish. That, pastor situation, just whatever. I mean, just a bongo player they can't get rid of. There's no hymnals, whatever the thing is. And, it's very difficult to answer these emails because the answer in each individual case is really different. I know my own case. In my own parish, I had been engaged in a struggle over the music question for 10 years before I did something productive about it. And maybe you know something about this struggle. I mean, it starts with, earplugs, I guess. And then, at least for me, it went to lobbying the pastor. And then I passed out leaflets after Mass. And, bad. People say to me now, Jeff, I just love the way you're so liberally minded and tolerant and the way you're able to sell the case. Well, look, I mean, I'm not really. I'm more like, if you've ever gotten mad about the music in your parish, think of the maddest you've ever been and multiply that by 1,000 times. That's the way I variously felt in Mass. But finally, at some point, after nothing worked, even the bribes, I paid, it didn't amount to anything. I finally decided that I would found, together with Arlene Zinner, a schola that actually learned how to sing chant. And to my amazement, it turned out that I discovered I wasn't very good at singing sacred music, and I didn't know that much about it. I wanted something that sounded vaguely sacred, but I didn't know how to produce it myself. So I spent the next several years teaching myself how to sing and teaching myself the melodies of the Catholic Church, so that I remember the first time I discovered Ave Maria. We all know that, right? Or do we? I had never heard it before, right? And it occurred to me, well, now here's a very, very beautiful antiphon. Actually, it's amazing. It's an amazing piece of music. Leaving everything else aside, it's an astonishing composition. And it's the central prayer to the Church. This is the most commonly known music that's survived through the ages. I had never heard it before, and I couldn't render it myself. So, if I was going to look at a problem in the church, in my own parish, where was I going to look? Am I going to look to the people who are trying to do music and doing a bad job of it? Or am I going to look to myself and notice that I can't do this stuff myself? And I realized that the central problem in my parish was not what I thought it was, namely everybody else. It was the thing that I thought was not the problem at all, namely myself.